Hi, boys and girls. This is Mrs. Wilburn, and I'm here to read you a story today called Giant Pandas by Gail Gibbons. So, this is a nonfiction text. So far, we've only shared fiction stories. And nonfiction is about things that are real life, and fiction is made up stories. I think you're going to enjoy learning about giant pandas today. Misty, thick clouds hang over the mountaintops. A large black and white animal makes its way through a bamboo forest. It is a giant panda. Giant pandas live in the mountains of China. The Chinese people call the giant panda Da Xiang Mao, meaning big bear cat. It looks like a bear and has long claws like a cat. So why do you think that Gail Gibbons chose to include this map here? I'd like for you to turn to the adult that you're with and tell them why you think there's a map that's included in this text. So how do you think that a panda is like a cat? And how are they different? I'd like for you to type in your answer on the next slide. Giant pandas are members of the bear family. Adult giant pandas are about 4 to 5 feet long and normally weigh about 200 pounds. Most of the time they move slowly, but if they want to, they can move at a fast trot. Their bodies are very flexible. I'd like for you to type into the next screen, what do you think it means to trot? When you hear that they can, if they want to, they can move at a fast trot, what do you think the word trot might mean? The fur of a giant panda is thick, coarse, and oily to keep the panda's body warm and dry. The fur is about 2 inches long. Giant pandas have poor eyesight, but they have an excellent sense of smell and hearing. In fact, pandas are hard to find in the wild because they can hide when they smell or hear people coming. Normally, giant pandas are shy and tend to stay by themselves. When they want to communicate with one another, they use about 11 different kinds of sounds. They bark, growl, squeal, and make other sounds to mean different things. It says a bark means hello, and growling or snorting means I'm frightened. So it says that pandas are usually shy and like to stay by themselves. I'd like for you to turn to the person that you're with and tell them if you are like a panda or if you're different than a panda. Are you shy or are you outgoing? Giant pandas also communicate by leaving their scent to tell other pandas they are in the area. They do this by rubbing a smelly liquid from glands under their tails onto rocks and trees. What other animal do you know about that has a smelly liquid? Type the answer into the next slide. Thousands of years ago, giant pandas ate only meat, but over time their diet changed to mostly plants, mainly bamboo. Occasionally they eat grass, roots, vines, honey, or even meat. Why do you think the diet of the panda changed from meat to mostly plants? Think about why you think that might have happened and type the answer into the next slide. Bamboo, because bamboo is not very nutritious. Giant pandas must spend between 10 and 16 hours a day eating it in order to stay strong and healthy. The average panda eats about 27 pounds of bamboo in a single day. That is a lot of bamboo. Think about what you eat and what a panda eats. Is it like what you eat or different? Tell the person you're with. Giant pandas have 5 claws on each of their paws, and they also have a special thumb on their front paws. They use their thumbs and claws to grasp the bamboo. So let's look at the panda's thumb. It says the thumb is a rigid extension, and then there's the claws. How is the panda's thumb like our thumbs? Type the answer into the next slide. Giant pandas use their big teeth and powerful jaws to crush and eat bamboo stalks. They also eat the leaves. Giant pandas can be playful and athletic. They do somersaults and climb trees quite easily. Also, giant pandas can swim, holding their heads above the water while they paddle with their legs. So this diagram is showing the jaws of the panda and the teeth. That's a feature in nonfiction text that helps us understand a little bit better as a diagram. Giant pandas don't have a regular sleeping place. They sleep on the ground, in the base of a hollow tree, or wherever and whenever they feel tired. They sleep 2 to 4 hours at a time. Male and female giant pandas come together to mate in the spring. After mating, the male goes off on his own. The female makes a bed of bamboo, twigs, and grasses in a cave or among rocks or in a hollow tree. This place is called a den. In the autumn, about 5 months later, the mother panda gives birth to 1 or 2 babies, called cubs. Immediately after giving birth, she begins nursing one of the cubs. A mother will only raise 1 cub at a time. Only 1 cub will survive. In their natural habitat, mothers usually give birth every 1 to 3 years. So a habitat is where an animal lives in nature, and young giant pandas are called cubs. A cub is very small. It only weighs about 3 ounces and is only about 6 inches long. The mother is about 900 times larger than her cub. It's amazing how gentle she can be. The cub has pink skin all over and some fuzzy white fur. Its cry sounds like a human baby. The mother holds her cub almost all the time. She won't leave to get food for herself for about 1 week after the cub's birth. In about 40 days, the cub opens its eyes. It has black and white markings and is still helpless. When the mother wants to move her cub, she gently picks it up by its neck and carries it from place to place. So what do you think that the word helpless means in this sentence? It has black and white markings and is still helpless. I'd like for you to type into the next slide what you think the word helpless means. Have you ever heard any other words with the ending less? Can you think of any and type them in the slide? What do you think that ending means? How does it change the meaning of the word? At about 4 months old, the cub is able to crawl. At 7 months old, the cub can run and climb trees. It weighs about 20 pounds and has learned how to eat bamboo. At about 2 years old, the young giant panda weighs around 120 pounds. It has learned all that it can from its mother. Now it is time for the young panda to live on its own. In another 2 years, it will be able to have its own young. Over the years, the number of giant pandas has become smaller because of the destruction of their natural habitat by people, accidental deaths in traps set for other animals, and the hunting of pandas for their fur. Because of their size, adult giant pandas have few natural enemies, except for people. Around 1900, there were about 65,000 giant pandas living in the wild. Today, there are fewer than 2,000. The people of China are trying to protect them. They have set aside large areas called reserves where giant pandas can live safely. Also, it is a crime to harm or kill a giant panda. In China and in a small number of other countries, scientists are trying to help increase the population of giant pandas. These pandas are cared for in captivity. What do you think captivity means? Let's look at this picture. How can these pictures help us figure out the meaning of the word captivity? Turn and tell the person that you're with. The scientists try to encourage the pandas to give birth and care for their cubs. When the young giant pandas are capable of living on their own, some of them are released back into the wild. Nature reserves in China. Others are placed in zoos. Whenever there are giant pandas in a zoo, people love to come and see them. They look like big, chubby, black and white teddy bears that are very playful. It is so much fun watching them. Giant pandas are one of the rarest and most appealing animals in the world. That's the end of our story today. Thank you so much for listening. Now I'd like for you to complete the writing assignment posted in Google Classroom.